Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. As tonight, as we have in the past, we look at the innovative ways that young Botswana have chosen to create employment for themselves. With unemployment hovering at around 19%, it is going to take new approaches from all stakeholders for the country to continue to thrive. Although it has become more difficult in recent years, many people have gone on to become successful in careers they may not have gone to school for. This evening, we focus our attention on Kagiso Madibana, a young, dynamic woman who has her hand in education, charitable works, and a few other things in between, and is someone who insists that it is possible to make a living as a writer in Botswana. It is definitely something to consider because, contrary to popular belief, books remain big business. They appear to have weathered the economic downturn as well as the advent of the digital age, with figures showing that book sales generated over $13 billion in 2008, which rose to close to $15 billion by 2012. Whereas online consumers around the world can buy songs for 99 cents, read most newspapers for free, rent a $100 million budget movie tonight for just $2.99, people remain willing to fork over a decent sum for books, whether in print or electronic form, paying about $10 or about 100 pula for bits if need be. Costs of creating a literary artwork are practically nothing as well when you compare the expensive talent and costly equipment needed for music, film, and other art forms. Can this optimism be applied locally, however? With little in the way of structures such as trade publishers, agents, and even a reading public, some say, can one justifiably aspire to making a living as a writer in Botswana? Our guest herself is self-published, so what gives her the optimism she's so eager to share? So, how did you get into writing?
From a young age, I think, my dad used to make me read books when I was about 7 or 8 as a hobby. So I grew to love them. They were my escape. Loved books from a young age. And I tried to write my story as well because most of the books we read were from America or the UK. It was always elsewhere, but their story is here in Botswana.
There are no trade publishers, there's no agents, and some people say we don't even have a reading public in Botswana.
You know what, I think I choose to see this as a positive instead of a negative. I feel like we as young Botswana are at an age where we can come up with groundbreaking, innovative solutions to the problems that we already have. Now, I don't exactly believe that we don't have a reading community. It's just been the norm for a long time. But like you said, generations change. And what I noticed is our generation reads. This is why I decided to go through this by myself. I decided, you know what, if they don't want to publish my book, I believe in my project enough to invest in it and to take it out to the public.
Had you taken it to a couple of publishers before you self-published?
Yes, trust me. Most of them, I even tried to go outside. I tried African publishers. Remember the whole series, there were pace setters before. There's been a community that is interested in African literature. But this was a process that was going to take time. And time is something that I didn't exactly have.
So you decided to self-publish. When was this officially published?
It was officially published in February, but in January we published it online on Amazon and other online platforms, and we actually have a mobile app for it as well.
What would you say is your favorite part of the store?
2 sections, the Botswana literature section and the fiction section.
Let's check out fiction since that's your first genre.
Great.
So you published online in January.
Yeah.
And you published, do they call it physically?
Yeah, hard copies. We prefer to call it hard
in
copies,
February.
yeah.
How did you get this published?
Right. PPCB, It's one of the best publishing houses here. And I guess I had a good relationship with them because Badila was the media most of the time. Look, at first, this was a pilot project for me, right? So I printed 110 copies because, you know, you need to test the market as well. I believe in my project, but I don't know how it will be received. So 110 copies, and I was just going to sell them by myself, purely by the network that I had built. And obviously, you know, social media. I'm heavily active on social media. I believe they're like-minded people that you can reach out to through social media. And then I went to, what do you call that place? Main deck, main mall. And then I asked those the managers, Michael and them, if I can just come there to do a little, what do you call it?
Book promotion, book launch.
Book launch. But I mean, it was small. It wasn't something that I was going to pay for. But they're trying to attract the same type of crowd that I want to sell the book to, because they want artsy, cultural. Yes, that's what they want. And they gave me a chance. And look, I managed to sell those 110 copies, but printing is a lot of money. So based off of what I was able to sell in that period of time, I was able to then take this proposal to investors. I was looking for investors because I was like, look, most of the books are in Gaboro, and it's the publishing as you can notice already they're older, right? Are usually in Gaborone, but this book, I feel like anybody can relate to it. A child in Shakawe, I need a child in Shakawe, I need a child in Shorobe, I need a child in Khansi. Not just a child, anybody, like I said, can relate to this book. I need anybody from across the country to read this book. So then I felt, what's the best way for me to get this book out there? Choppies. Choppies is everywhere. Choppies, you know, Choppies is more than Dimausu around here. Like Dimausu are close, it's Choppies. So I managed to talk to the CEO somehow. The 2 months I was trying every day. He's a busy man. He's a busy man. He gave me 3 minutes, and in those 3 minutes he said, yes, just do it. You can do whatever you want. I'll just give you the space because you believe you can sell this book.
You know what? Maybe let's go have a seat.
Okay.
So I don't wear you out. Welcome back to the show as we continue to speak to young writer Kagiso Madibana, who insists that young people can make a living as writers in Botswana. We look to unpack her conviction. You've been writing pieces for newspapers, you've told me before, since you were in university. How was sitting down to write a novel different from writing articles and news pieces?
Well, listen, journalism is mostly about facts, research. That's easy to do. You pick up the phone, you read books, you do interviews. That's easy to do. Well, not really easy, but compared to the process of writing, it's different because I wrote a fiction book. Now, fiction means you need to be motivated, you need to be in the right frame of mind, you need to be patient. Oh my God. So actually when I started writing this book, I was still working. I was working at a local uni here, but I saw that I would never be able to finish because you're from an 8 to 5 where you had a busy day. You can't reset your mind. It's difficult.
Yes.
You probably write a line or two and then you'll cancel it because it will not flow. So that's why I decided to quit my job, because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to finish this book because I even found it hard to sleep. I knew there's a book in me, I need to get it out.
I've heard of that, but I'm yet to experience it. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So you gambled and took a chance and sat down to write.
I took a chance. You know, I felt this is the time for me to take a chance. I mean, I don't have kids. I don't even have a dog. So I thought, you know, this is the
time to gamble.
Yeah. Yes.
How was the process, though? I know you said it was difficult and whatever. Did you have resources? Did you find mentors? What resources could other people call on to try and birth a novel that may be burning inside of them?
I think that's a hard question to answer because for someone like me, I grew up alone. I had friends, but I was mostly alone. I find it hard to ask for help sometimes when I know I'm stuck. Always depend on myself to find a way out. So what I would do is I'd go online and try and research about what authors go through in this process of writing, because there are times where I felt like I was really stuck. I was like, I know there's a story here, but I don't know where it is right now. I can't find it, but it's there. Well, I would literally stare at the computer for like an hour and it wouldn't come.
Are you happy with your gamble thus
Yes, I am
No
happy.
regrets?
No, none at all. I would have regretted it if I didn't take it.
What advice do you have? I know, like you said, you're going to be looking to motivate others.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them? Maybe step by step, or?
Look, I mean, I feel like at this point they should use people like me because I've been on this road. It's always better to learn from those before you. Now, for me, it was difficult because I'm writing a fiction book, and most people that we know who have been publishing books, it has been autobiographies and it's scholarly articles or scholarly books, or it's dictionaries. It's never really fiction. When it's fiction, it's people who write pieces for websites, just short pieces, not really novels. So it was hard for me. I'm not a part of that community. I'm not a part of the writers groups, if there are any. So it was hard to be able to call on somebody for advice. So I would just say, look, I'm here and I'm willing to help however I can.
You say you found investors as well along the way. How did you get them to believe in your vision? Is there something special about Baring's journey that we should know?
I like to believe there is. But look, I think, like I said, I was able to build a network from 2008. It's been a long road. I built this network because of my writing at the Sunday Standard and the social work that I do. Sometimes people believe in the person, right? And they know what you're capable of and what you can achieve. And it is also how you present what you did to them.
I guess that's why we now see the autobiographies by celebrities and people like that.
Exactly.
People do buy.
And we rush to buy them, right? Because we know them and we know what they've done and what they're capable of doing, and there are things that we're interested in finding out about them that we think we don't know. But look, through the process of finding investors, especially for a book writing project, it's not easy. It wasn't easy, trust me. It took 4 months. You know, you'll meet people who'll be like, yeah, no, sure, yeah, we'll invest, it's nothing. And then it doesn't happen. So you'll be chasing people. You just have to learn to be persistent, but you also have to learn to cut your losses and know this is not going to lead anywhere, right? But you keep trying. You keep trying. I eventually managed to find, and the funny thing is the investors are not even, they're in their 30s, early 30s. They're young people in early 30s, and they're not even in the same industry as I'm in. One of them is she's a mechanical engineer in Canada, and the other one owns clinics in Mulepolole, like eye clinics in Mulepolole.
Okay, that's it for finding support on the financial and admin and
the
business
technical
side,
stuff,
the money side.
Yeah.
But what about the process itself?
Right.
Once you finally had that first draft, did you have somebody to run through it, maybe give you advice, give you the final edit?
Right.
What was that process like?
Oh, yeah. I think that is the most testing process because you're vulnerable at that stage. You know, you're allowing other people to now see your product and critique you and judge you, and I think that is, you have to have a thick skin for that. I had an old professor who was very encouraging when we were still at school. He actually is the one who advised me to go and try writing at the Sunday Standard. Or just try my luck here and there to nurture my writing skills. His name was Professor Mtali. He's retired now. He's from Malawi. He's the first person I sent the draft to. He loved it, and then he helped me with the grammar here and there, but then he also advised me to find a professional editor. Now, that was the toughest process because, listen, first of all, like you said, the database or database of writers in the country is quite few. And if you're somebody coming in from the outside, listen, this is not my group of journalist friends. I can't send them a work of fiction. That's not their strong point. Their strong point is in facts, research, and yeah. I found one online. She was American. I loved how she helped me with the grammar. It wasn't that much, but I didn't like how the book contains a lot of elements of Setswana culture. I didn't like how she missed most of what I was trying to.
She didn't have any in the references, the cultural references.
No, she didn't have the cultural references. Therefore, I felt like I wasn't happy with that editing process. And then I had somebody locally who is also a professor at the University of Botswana take a look at it as well. But he was also happy with it. So I think most of the issues that we had was just grammar, thank God. But it's a long process because also, remember, you're paying these professional editors. So it takes money out of your pocket.
Thank you for staying with us as we now look all the way west, discussing the business etiquette practices of the United States of America. American political scientist Ian Bremmer writes in a May 2015 article in Time magazine that America is still the world's only superpower, and that will not change anytime soon. Describing a superpower as a country that wields enough military, political, and economic might to convince nations in all parts of the world to do things they otherwise wouldn't. Another article points out that the United States' $17 trillion economy is so enormous that the 51 smaller economies of the states and Washington, D.C. that combine together to make that national economy are comparable to nation-states in their own right. That if Texas were an independent country, its 1.65 trillion GDP would make it the 15th largest economy in the world, just ahead of Saudi Arabia's 1.62 trillion GDP. Among America's greatest exports, though, is its culture, through its music, blockbuster movies, and books. A culture that many across the world will recognize, whether it's symbolized as the fast-paced urban lifestyles of New York City or the more conservative agricultural feel of small-town America. This has made the country the ideal place to start a life for many people around the world. It is said that 45 million of the country's 318 million people living in America were born elsewhere. But beyond the glittering images of the silver screen, what is it really like to network and do business in the big old US of A? Commercial and Economic Officer Shansonet Yan with the United States Embassy here in Gaborone says we would find that Americans are quite informal. How would you describe the work ethic and culture practiced in the United States? I know it's a huge country with very different states, but what of the more metropolitan areas like New York and other centers like that? How would you describe?
Well, I think one of the defining characteristics of the American workplace is the American dream. The belief that anyone can make it if they work hard, if they really put their mind to it. And what that means is that in general, the workplace and just the culture is founded on a strong work ethic and also an egalitarian system. We're less formal than many other cultures. And also it's, in general, businesses and the communication in the workplace is very direct and frank. The deadline is the deadline. You're expected to arrive on time because time is money. And that's part of what people evaluate you and your business based on. But like you said, it really does vary, not only within states, but within industries. So for example, if you look at law firms, you'll generally see people in ties and suits, whereas if you go to an IT firm or if you go to Google, I think you're more likely to find people in khakis and a collared shirt.
If I was an entrepreneur looking to head over to one of your mega metropolises tomorrow, how would you advise me to put my best foot forward, especially in one-on-one interactions? And where would you advise me to go to network and seek out opportunities?
Well, you can actually start that here in Botswana. We have what's called the American Business Council in Botswana, known as ABC. It is our bilateral commercial association, and they are affiliated with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is kind of like our Business Botswana. So the networking can start here, and we always recommend that businesses and individuals who are interested in bilateral commercial ties, that they start there. Also, we always tell anyone who's thinking of traveling to the U.S. to apply for a visa early and never buy a ticket before you get the visa, because it's never a guaranteed thing. So just for planning purposes, it's always better to do the visa first. And we also have resources on our website. If you go to bw.usembassy.gov, we have, for example, Select USA, we have Business USA that has a wealth of information for people looking at business in the US.
You've been here 25 months, you said?
Yes.
What have you observed about how we conduct business or our workplace culture here in Botswana? Any striking differences?
Well, I think one of the differences is that the culture tends to be more formal here. And so we always tell US companies when they come here that informality is not, it's not the best approach here. That you have to invest in relationships, and it's always good to begin with formality, and if the other person says, call me by my first name, then you do it, but otherwise it's best to wait. And so that's one of the differences. The other thing that we tell US companies when they're coming here and they're penetrating the market and they want to understand the culture is that it's a different pace. Not all the decisions are necessarily made immediately. The contract may not be signed the next week after the handshake. And so we always caution American companies to have different expectations in that regard, and to try to bridge any potential misunderstandings to make sure that people are on the same page. We do write a number of reports to inform US companies. For example, the investment climate statement, the country commercial guide. We write these reports specifically on Botswana to inform them so that they can come prepared and hopefully engage in fruitful projects that will help both America and Botswana.
And finally, what best practices do you think we could learn from one another within the working environment?
Well, we can all learn from each other, right? But I think one of the strengths in the US is the innovation of the private sector. When you look at the fact that they created the internet, invented the smartphone, I think there's definitely a dedication to creating new things that provide solutions to our wants and needs. And part of that is research and development. Both the US government and the private entities, whether it be academia, companies, they all invest in that, and that's very helpful.